Hello, good afternoon, everyone, or morning, maybe. For some of you, we're so excited to have you with us. If you'll just let us know your name and maybe the org that you're with, we are so excited and we'll get started here in just a minute. Um, and so excited to hear from you. Just drop in the chat where you're joining us from. Make sure you select everyone so everyone can see where you're joining us from in the chat, and go ahead and type that in there in the webinar chat and we'll get started. Um, so excited to have all of you with us today. We are going to be, and Ashley, if you'll hit the recording so that everybody can receive a recorded copy of this, we will get started. So excited to see all of you from near and far joining. It's Lynn Wester, founder and principal of DRG. And as many of you know, one of my kind of focus areas for 2024 has been trying to find software companies that bring value to our space. So we've talked to folks from Amon at Awarded. We've talked about Otter, and we've already had one webinar with Josh, but here's our second to talk with Josh from Storyraise. He and Jeff are the co-founders, and this past weekend we were able to spend a fantastic weekend together in Florida at a tech founders retreat. And so in 2025, I will tell you that there's much more to come in this space, because I really have found that the founders want our help and want to hear from you all about their products, about what you need from them in this space. And so I just feel like it's a wonderful fit. And even if the software isn't for you, maybe it's learning a few things that you can incorporate into your digital reporting, or maybe it's just having an hour of professional development community with folks like you. We have a couple hundred of you registered today all over. And so excited. This will be recorded. At the end, Ashley will send out the recording and the slides and some links to some samples and just any conversation that happened as well. But for now, I am going to turn it over to Josh and let him take it from there. Take it away, Josh.
Yeah, thanks, Lynn. And it was a great technology retreat over the weekend. And, what I find is that there's more and more technology companies that really do care and really do want to help and have a basis of nonprofit history. And that happens to be my case. So again, I'm Josh Kligman. If we haven't met before, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Storyraise. I'm in Washington, D.C. Storyraise is a solution to create digital impact and donor reports with a focus on increasing donor engagement. I worked at a national nonprofit called 4-H for a little over 10 years before I founded Storyraise. And some of the learnings that I found were around, while I was creating different reports from, national impact and annual reports to more regional and local reports, was that I only knew some of the metrics and I only knew some of the answers around engagement. But how do you know if reports are moving the needle when it comes to hard metrics? And is the storytelling, really a piece of that ROI in terms of people clicking through reports? And is it leading to more donor engagement in the forms of not just giving, but volunteerism and so on? And technology can be a big piece of that. And like Lynn mentioned earlier, we'll show you lots of great examples in software, but maybe at the very least, there's nuggets and pieces that can be incorporated into your current practices, and that would be a big help. So as I share my screen here, I want to start out by sharing a couple examples, and I'm going to share a window here that starts out with an example from Goodwill International. Now, today we're going to talk about personalization, and personalization means two things to me. One is about the audience, and two is when you go deeper and you're talking about personalizing things for individuals or specific groups of people, and that has to do with audience segmentation, and we're going to dive into that in a minute. When you're talking about your audience in general, personalizing for your audience at its highest level is just about customization and knowing who your audience is. And the first step with that is really about understanding your audience and communicating effectively and knowing who your donors are and knowing really what motivates the donors. And that comes down to crafting the right messages and having the right values and the right interests that your donors actually care about. So when you're personalizing for different donor segments, you could think about this, that some research we saw found that about 80% of donors say that personalized communication influences their reasons to give. And that's because they want to feel included, of course. And I'm going to scroll through here with this example of goodwill, which in this particular example, I'm purposely showing you a general report because it's really personalized for an audience they already know about and includes great things like multimedia in order to engage them. It's not personalized where it says, hey, dear Lynn, dear Josh, at that level, but we're going to get there with other types of examples. So if I go to their next section here, the letter from the CEO, we could take a look at how this is organized. Now with Storyraise, all the reports are web-based. So that means it lives at a URL. It looks and feels like a report because you can scroll through a table of contents, and it's really focused on stories of impact that have to do with engagement. So they know who their audience is really based on the stories of impact that they're telling. And those stories are showing how, hey, we couldn't have done this without you. And here are the results. It's just saying thank you, and it's stewarding those donors. They have a different version they did that for an international version that talks to a different audience that's telling different stories. And we even see reports, and I'm going to show you one later that goes into different languages. And when you're segmenting out those audiences, you're telling your donors and other groups, hey, we understand your perspective and where you're coming from, and we could not do this without you. And that's a big leap over really general types of reports that don't feature people like them in the reports and letting them be the lead in the story. Another example here comes from a community foundation in North Carolina. This is the Coastal Community Foundation, and very similar to Goodwill, they do a great job of understanding their audience when it comes down to impact stories. And I'll show you one more here before we go a little deeper into personalization like you were thinking about it might be, but this comes from the Scarborough Health Network in Canada. And their ability to tell stories about patients that they've affected because of the gifts that were given is deeply personal. And what they were able to do is think about family foundations that are supporting different gifts and then make different spin-off versions of reports. And I think that's a best practice that we've seen a lot, where you can take one piece of content that you have and then make multiple use cases out of it. So you don't have to keep creating, completely new content from scratch, but you can rinse and repeat. So here in the general report, it's from our CEO. Thank you so much. Here are the stories. But when you get down to individual segmented audiences like family foundations that are helping, you could talk about the exact way that those donor dollars from that organization have been helping. I just want to pause here before I go into really customized versions, and I see a bunch of things popping up on the chat. I'm just going to take a look and see if there's any questions here. We're good. If you have questions, I'm going to try to answer them in real time. So keep them coming as you see some of the technology here. So here is an example of a report from the United Way, and they call this Creating Opportunities. This is a United Way in Indiana, and this is their impact report. These are stories in the community that feature the people that are beneficiaries of specific programs and different gifts. And the way this operates is a little different than the reports you just saw, because there's variable data involved. So if you look closely where my mouse is here, it says hello at first name. These are variable data tags that's pulling information like names into a letter. So that's kind of the easiest and that first step that you could take to personalize reports. What's going on behind the scenes is that data is being pulled automatically. So if you're spending a lot of time manually mapping data points, if you are personalizing reports today from, let's say, spreadsheets with data tags, this is a way that you can map data using automation from a donor management platform or CRM, or maybe even a spreadsheet. And that's all pulled into Storyraise. I think that the more interesting part about personalization here is not the names, though. That's where it starts when someone's reading a report, and whether they notice it intentionally or not, they'll start to feel, oh, this report's for me. That's nice. They put my name in there. But when the stories get specific and they really can't even tell that it's personalized, that's the best personalization. So if you know that your audiences are segmented out based on interest level or giving level, that's where you can start to tell different stories to different groups of people. But you don't have to create different reports for those people. And I'll show you exactly how technology can help with that today. So let's think of an example where I'm looking at Lynn on the screen. So Lynn, I'm going to use your name over and over today. So let's say I know that Lynn is a gold donor for my foundation or my educational institution versus someone else who is a silver donor. I may want to start to show Lynn how her contributions and her gifts as a gold donor specifically have moved the needle through impact stories that I might not want to show other giving levels. And then I think even the more interesting part of that is by Lynn's interest in a certain program on campus, or maybe a certain event that I know she attended. And if you have that data sitting in a note in a spreadsheet or in your donor management platform or in your CRM, that's an opportunity for, in the background, me to say, all right, I want to show, and I'll go to an actual example here. I want to show a certain impact story to Lynn that I don't want to show other people that are interested or giving gifts for a different program, because I want to show them a totally different story. And we do that with the technology called stacking. So we might have two stories that we're building at the same time, and one we're showing to one audience, one we're showing to another. So really, at the end of the day, what that means is you could just create one report, send it out to 100,000 different people, and as each individual opens it, you're seeing different versions of that. So there's the best practice of that, which is just that idea of thinking about how you can customize impact reports, donor reports, and I would even say any way you can say thank you or newsletters to audiences. But when everyone opens it, they see their own version of it. And then that's the technology part of it too. So you have your best practice part and the technology. And I say that because there are different ways and different technologies that you can think about that best practice and incorporate it. We just try to make it really easy with Storyraise. So as you go through this particular report that United Way put out, we see different stories that, maybe one donor might see versus another. So another report that the same United Way, put out, did something, just another example, really similar. Throughout it, they use multimedia to grab attention. And that's a nice benefit of digital reports, even outside the personalization. But things like video or social media can also be personalized in the same with the same method or with the same context, that you may have one audience that might want to see a video of that's the result of a capital campaign that you had on your campus. But if someone didn't participate in that campaign, you may want to show them something different, which could be just an article, a blog, or let's say a different video. So let's take a look at what those differences look like here in reality. So I have a sample on the screen here, and this is a sample that we created that is going to show us what it looks like for those various constituents. So we'll do a few variations of this, and then I'll go into the actual report builder that we have and show you kind of what that looks like behind the scenes and how the data from constituents is accessed, and what it looks like in a drag and drop type system, just to easily build reports like this. So I have this report already open for a mock constituent named John. So we say, Dear John, and everything else that you see on the screen right now is evergreen, so to speak. So I chose to make it a little simpler and keep the same imagery here. Of course, everything could be as different, as complex as you want. But for the first time, I think that someone is moving into web-based reports that are personalized. You can keep it simple, and then you can get more advanced as you go. So if I go to the next section in the table of contents here, this is where we get into the impact stories. So this section, donor impact stories, has this lady on the left and a little article, because you support this program. And underneath it, I want you to intentionally see that you can go to the next section or back to the other one. There's not another story here. We're showing one story to this constituent, John. So now I'm going to change this to, let's go with Sarah. And it's going to refresh the page. And with Sarah, we're going to see what it looks like for her. And you can see how I built one report here, but the different constituents are seeing their version. So dear Sarah, of course, and like I mentioned, everything else is the same here. So it's pulling in that variable data tag of the first name being Sarah. So let's go to what I think is the more impactful section here, the second section. So it's the same kind of layout. It's a different article. It's a different photo. You can see they swapped because I wanted to have this design for Sarah or constituents like Sarah. And it's telling a totally different story here. Maybe even link somewhere else. There's no other impact story below this on the bottom. So it's swapped out one for another. So that's how the output really looks with technology like this. At Storyraise, we call the whole concept precision, as you're able to do that kind of targeting. So let's see here. I'm going to take a look here behind the scenes in our dashboard, and I want to talk about some of the use cases that are out there for various types of personalized reports. The use cases that we see at Storyraise really align with what our clients and our customers are coming up with. And then what we do is we'll build out different templates that align with that, and then allow brands and campuses to align their brand and their communications team so that the reports are on par with your own brand guidelines. So your logos, your brand colors, your licensed fonts all throughout really make it become your own report. But in the background, you have a solution that's really kind of simple to use. So we see personalization come alive through impact reports, annual reports, various donor reports, even sometimes when your counterparts in fundraising are creating a case for giving beyond just saying thank you, say for end of year. Various event recaps, and event recaps and volunteer reports I see less frequently. And when I do, I smile because I think it's really important. You have alumni or donors come to an event, whether it's in person or virtual, and what an opportunity when the event is over to create some sort of series of impact stories showing them. And for every person that probably came to your event, you probably have 10 or 20 more that didn't make it, maybe even more. They'll be able to see what they missed out on. And if your event involves sponsors in any way, that in turn becomes a pitch deck, and that can all be personalized too. And then we have different ways to say thank you. One I want to highlight that I'm going to go into in just a minute here is this idea of thank you notes and letters. And as I hear Lynn talk about all the time, and rightfully so, that handwritten thank you note, I mean, you can't beat that. We're trying to find technology that can complement it. And one of the ways we do that is through a digital handwritten thank you note that comes up on the screen, and also videos. So at Storyraise, we encompass all these ways to say thank you and reports in one portal, and be a one-stop shop for these web-based links that you can send out to everybody. So I am going to go in and show you maybe 2 or 3 of these behind the scenes, especially the thank yous. And I think that's probably a really good place to start. I just want to show the constituent data and how that's housed in this kind of mock environment that I have here because that's an important part of personalization. So let's say you have a donor management platform, and in that platform, you're pulling in all this data from your platform of choice. Um, I'm going to click on one here called Linda Jones. All this information is automatically pulled in and updated on a daily basis from the donor management platform here. Um, the most important being the data tags that you care about that are going to define the personal stories that you're telling. So in the examples I showed, I'd really care that Linda's first name is in here and tagged correctly. So it says at first name. If Linda was to ever change her name or her email address, then I wouldn't have to worry about manually updating this. It'll always sync. And then here we could see that, Linda is a gold donor. And if she was, a fan of one program versus another, or one school versus another on the campus, all that information would be here. So it lives here. Not every little bit and piece that you want to personalize is sitting in your donor management platform. You may have gotten an idea 5 minutes ago when I said one audience could see one video in a report and another audience can see another. So where does that live? We can easily add that into Storyraise and say, all my gold donors should see this video. Everyone that supported this campaign in the last 5 years should see this video on that report. And you're just storing that, and then I'll show you how that's used. So Lynn, we have a question, please.
Yes, I had to find my unmute button
Yeah.
over on my left-hand side. So we have a couple questions I thought we could get to. The first one is Storyraise compatible with Razor's Edge?
Oh, all right. My favorite question of the month so far. So yes, we have, oh boy, we have 3, soon to be 5 integrations with Blackbaud. One is right here. You can sync to your Razor's Edge NEXT, NERXT, or Blackbaud CRM account and pull in the data here. A second integration is along the lines of Blackbaud donation forms. But really, wherever you process gifts, if there was some sort of solicitation report where you're making a case for giving and saying, thank you so much, here's the impact, and we need your help, why make the donor click an extra button that then takes them to another page and maybe even another page to donate? Do it all within the report. So we seamlessly do that with all platforms. I mean, through embed codes, but we make it really easy for Give Butter, Bloomerang, Blackbaud, and soon to be Virtuous. And then a third integration is along the lines of insights and metrics. So if you're in Razor's Edge, for instance, in the marketplace, as of yesterday afternoon, we now have a constituent tile. So in one click, you can start to create a personalized report for that donor because you see other metrics that Blackbaud's providing you. And we're about to assign a donor engagement score, and I want that's going to live there, but it's also going to live here in this Insights tab within Storyraise. So I'm just going to pick a random report here. Let's go with this. I'm in a demo account. We'll see if it loads everything, but we have insights for every report, and it's really important that, well, first of all, that that with Storyraise, you create a report. We give you a URL. We give you the embed code. You're going to go take that and use to make it easy for you, your existing email platform to send them out. You'll be able to see who opens it and who clicks, of course. But when you come back to Storyraise, and soon to be in Razor's Edge, you want to be able to see the data in terms of how people interacted with the report. And we do that based off of AI, and all these prompts are sitting in all our customers' accounts. So you could see where people were coming from, but you also want to see at an individual level for personalized reports, how each individual donor was interacting and engaging with the report. And then we put that information back into a donor management platform like Razor's Edge, so you could see that there also. They're launching that ability in Q1. So it all talk to each other, right? And then you don't have to, no one wants to go to multiple tech platforms to see everything. If I can make it out of a regular day without having to search more than just in my Gmail for work and personal, then that's a win. I wouldn't want to go to 10 different places to search for information. And if I can find the info I'm looking for in my own Gmail, then that's a miracle. But in here, we try to make it easy. So we have different prompts like, what section in my report had the highest engagement? So you can see that at a general level and then at a very granular level. And well, hold on. Let's ask this question in the chat. Can you guess what the most important metric might be for donor engagement when it comes to reports. And it's really hard. I mean, I thought about this with my team for 2 or 3 months before we came up on it, but I'm really interested in hearing what you think. So what is the most important metric for you for looking at reports and seeing if people engaged with it? I'll just call a few out as I see it. So I see the click rate. Okay. Any others? And I see some other questions here. Well, after I finish this, I'll come back to this thought. I'll come back to the question. Unopen rate. All right. Conversion rate. Yeah, I think all these are right on to tell the whole story. And it's not satisfaction, time spent, and it's not one or the other. My first thought was time spent when I go back to, let's say, August or September, and I was thinking, and someone else said the sections viewed and the content they're clicking on. I've seen 3 or 4 of these comments, and I think that's my number one answer. So with time spent, and Lynn's heard me say this a couple times even this week, but with time spent, if my doorbell rings or I get a call on my cell phone and I'm looking at a report and I walk away, on your end, you're going to think I spent an hour looking at your report. And I may have not read a word, and I may have, but you don't know. So yeah, someone just said time can be faked if left open, right? And it's hard to tell about tell those users or donors of your report whether it's real engagement or it's just as I described when you just don't know the answer. So the number of times people click throughout there is really important. And it's not necessarily clicks to go outbound and open a new tab and go to your website. It's about clicks through all the different sections, almost like they're thumbing through a paper report, your old school 28, 32 page printed report, right? So if it's like if you sat there and you watch someone flipping through that report, you can see where they're clicking, and you can see generally and at a granular, personalized level what the most popular sections are. And I think that's a real nugget of information. If you have that information, you'll be able to improve on your reports for next year. And you'll be able, before you go to lunch with a donor next week, you'll be able to say, oh, I know they really were interested in that one program in section 5. I mean, you can really kind of study it with your teams.
So that kind of leads Josh into Rachel's question around, so what criteria could we use to know what someone's favorite area of the organization is? Like it could be giving, but she wants to know if you can customize it by organization. So what's favorite at one organization could be different than a favorite at another organization.
Yeah, I mean, you can take a look at, any question you could think of in terms of the metrics and really dissect it. But let me give a really concrete example here.
Mhm.
And I'll show you some metrics that I think might really help. So I'm just going to refresh my page here and load insights for an actual report that's out there, and it might help give a little more context to everything that we're talking about.
That's fantastic. Nothing like
Yeah.
seeing it in real life, not just pseudo. We show a lot of screenshot examples, so it's nice to be able to dive right into the platform. We did have one question about integrations. Is there any tessitura integrations, or like what if it's not one of the softwares that you listed that you already integrate with?
As long as they have an open API, then we take about 5 business days and we'll connect to it. And we don't nickel and dime. We don't charge extra for that. We just want you to be able to access your data and make great reports. And we'll assign a team to do white glove data mapping with you to get all that done, from the connection to making sure that the first name's going to show up correctly. The worst thing is finding new technology and then realizing you have to go do it all yourself. And we'll do it for you,
Great, thanks.
right? And what's cool about that is, like, once you do it once, you have your template, right? Your data tags are already in there, and then you need to create another report for a totally different use case the next month, or send a thank you, and you're not starting from scratch. So here's metrics on an actual report. I could see that there were 14,000 opens here. Here's some views by region, and if I were to click something like what sections were viewed the most. I haven't clicked this before, so we'll see if this even works. By the way, this is Sammy, the sloth, and this is Storyraise's mascot. And Sammy was with his slow friends in the jungle.
You
And
okay, Mom?
wanted to
Okay.
speed up and be at a tech company. So Sammy came over with us and is teaching us to slow down and engage donors. In case you're wondering why there's a sloth face here with the AI. So this one, well, maybe because I'm sharing my screen, but you could, if I were to say like, how much time was spent on, this section versus that section, um, it'll pop up, and I'm happy to dive deeper with anyone in this offline, but I might be killing my computer right now also using AI while sharing my Zoom. So I think what I'll do, are there other questions, Lynn? That popped
Yes.
before me? Okay.
Yes, we have one who said they may or may not have some old school folks who appreciate a printed annual report. Can you use this technology to eventually turn into a PDF? And they just wanted to know, not that anyone at any organization would have any old school folks, but just in case.
Just in case, yeah, you actually are creating a PDF at the same time that you're creating digital. We're the only platform that's going to do that. So when you're in the report builder, and that's what I'm looking at right now. So if you take a look at this impact report, this is the preview for desktop, and this is the preview as I'm building it in real time for tablet. And by the way, all my sections in the table of content are on the left, and all my design blocks are on the right, and I can drag and drop them in, and then you're just kind of clicking and editing from there. So you're seeing a tablet view right now. Here's the mobile view. PDF's next. I'm going to answer your question. So here's the mobile view, so you can see what it looks like on a cell phone. And everything's mobile responsive, because the worst thing is opening a PDF with lots of assets on it on your cell phone and having to pinch and zoom in, and you can't really see everything clearly. And here's the PDF version. PDF and digital, I should say, and web-based applications are not apples to apples. So if your text is really long on one page, on a website, you just keep scrolling forever. But there'll be a cutoff point at some point on a PDF. So we give guidelines as to where those cutoff points are. But now I'm going to open up this PDF preview, and I'm going to show you exactly what this looks like when you print it out. The images for digital are compressed, so it loads fast. But when your donors open up a PDF, which they can on their own, or when you open up a PDF, it's high resolution, it's full bleed, and you can see exactly how it comes out. So I didn't do anything except make a digital report. And now I have this really great landscape or portrait report. So this is more like 8.5 by 11. You could just go print out, and you're on your way. That way you don't have to go create a totally different report. Any other questions that popped up, Lynn?
That's great. Just one last one. Our friend Jared works at a small organization, and he wants to know what the minimum number of donors on file, or what is to see a return on investment. Like, are they too small for a platform like this? Maybe you could tell him about some of the smaller organizations you have on the platform, because
Yeah.
he doesn't want to waste resources, right? So not every organization is large.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's the idea of if you haven't done personalization before that's like this, you want to make sure that you have some scale so it's worth it. That United Way example that I showed from Indiana, I think they have several hundred, maybe closer to 1,000 different stakeholders that are receiving that. I have large institutions that say for some of their major donors, they want to send some reports where each and every bit of it is totally different. Well, in that case, the personalization with scale doesn't make sense, because so much of the report is different. So they'll just send out 40 at a time. But for everyone else, there's an opportunity to personalize it. So, 100 or less might not be worth it, unless if you had another segmented audience where there were at least hundreds, so you were going to send it to. I think it's something you can experiment with. Yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing is that this, and why we built it, solves for the pain points of organizations that are currently personalizing reports because of the manual process, but I could see the argument that it could speed things up. But right, you want a decent sized list to do it.
Yes, and then my understanding also is that you have dynamic pricing. So if they are a small nonprofit with under a certain amount on their 990, you're pricing it appropriate to what they, their resources. So that is really important as well, and something that Josh and Jeff and I talk about a lot is we want to make sure that this is accessible regardless of the size of your nonprofit. So Jared, you can also talk to them and they'll look at your 990, and then pricing is based off of how small or large your organization is. So it's not all the same.
Yeah, exactly what Lynn said. If you're a small nonprofit, we will help you out, and we work with smaller organizations and very large institutions doing complex versions of these. Someone just asked about 10-year study community reports with various types of data that different people in different regions or that are interested in different programs can see, and then that comes down to dynamic searching that's powered by AI and visual storytelling and telling the story behind the numbers for community reports. A whole nother use case that before a month ago, hadn't necessarily heard of. But at the same time, it comes down to what our bread and butter is, which is using technology for interesting storytelling to increase the engagement. And if your engagement is increasing, then that's one piece of the puzzle, as you all know, that ties into donor retention and increasing the donor retention. So we're trying to do our part with our knowledge from our own nonprofit work to increase that donor engagement. I'll take a look here also, but were there any other questions before I move on? Okay, great. We'll dive into this a little more at the end, but I just want to, and we'll put a link up, but I just want to also share that we have an ebook that we'll provide to everyone that's on this call that dives into the 6 steps of impact report success. And this really goes through even more best practices that we've seen in all types of nonprofits, foundations, and educational institutions to focus on, enhancing donor retention, like I talked about. I wrote it with my co-founder Jeff, who Lynn has mentioned a couple times. Jeff Rum is also here in the DC area. Jeff has run in the past, before Storyraise, 3 agencies focused on digital marketing and campaign work for nonprofits and community partners. And he saw this need for better tracking and recording and engagement when it comes to the world of reports, and that's what we base this on. So more than happy to share this with everybody else. I'm going to share something that I mentioned earlier, which is a report in a different language. Technology gives you the ability to really segment those audiences and think about French, Hebrew, which on the screen is tough because it's, you're writing the other way, Spanish translation. But we see organizations, right? And we see organizations, especially, this one is from Canada, especially in Canada, where they have 2 reports, right? So I talked about Goodwill creating an international version. I think that one's also in English, but it's got a different focus in terms of the Goodwill locations they talked about. This one's in a totally different language. So unfortunately, I can't tell you whether this is hitting the mark or not. I don't know what it says, but I know the point, right? Which is that they're thinking about who they're really talking to. So I'm going to go back to something I promised to share here before we open it up for some other Q&A, which was the idea of saying thank you and personalizing that. So we kind of went off here into metrics. So give me one moment. I'm going to get back to this thank you area and show you exactly what that looks like. Okay. So we have 2 types of thank you reports or thank you kind of notes. This one, and when I click this, it's going to open a preview here so you can see exactly what it would look like if it was produced. And I think that's exactly what I want to show you. So the engagement here goes even beyond the personalization. I mean, video in the background, it's just really unique and grabs attention. So of course you can see where you can put the person's name. And then maybe there's a letter. But what I really like is this right here. And this is what I was talking about, that complements that can't be replaced handwritten note. And if you look closely here, let me see if I can highlight this with my mouse. There's at first name. That's a data tag, right? So I can write, Dear Lynn, Dear Josh, and for different types of donors, it could say different phrases. So when you're building, you're just typing out in plain text. This is really just a font, and then different audiences can see different text. What I think is great is a template we're launching that doesn't have a table of contents. You're not scrolling through anything. Maybe there's some images like this, but it's really just a quick thank you and not much more. I'm going to go back and show you something really similar, but a video version of this that we offer. And it's probably similar to things you did today, but you can give a little more context going beyond the video, which would be the idea of pairing it with an impact story that the audience would care about and personalizing that. So if you were to say thank you or describe anything to anybody in a video, there's things that could come after the video, which could be stories of impact. That could be about something they supported, an event you have coming up, something you want to invite them to. So you can get really creative with what that looks like and go a little deeper with the storytelling.
We have a question from Dara. She wants to know if, I mean, and we haven't even spoken about this, Josh, but is there a world in which this could be used for a holiday card?
It's funny, when I was at 4-H, the nonprofit I worked at, I used to create, and this was when I first started there, but digital holiday cards, and they had animation in them. And yes. So, this is not live. I'm kind of in this demo account here, but we're working on this kind of invitation, which is, I think I thought of this because there's a Christmas tree in the background and these people are at some kind of holiday event, it looks like. But yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of the content that you put in there. I mean, in real time, in 5 minutes from right now, I could probably build a holiday card by putting in the right image in the background, saying happy holidays or whatever I want to say, and dear at first name, and then couple it with an impact story. I think that we just put out a blog and a couple social media posts about this idea of what to do after this giving season, not just Giving Tuesday, but if you think of whole end of year, like what's the impact that's coming out of that? Could you do like a start of 2025 report that shows like the impact from the giving season, right? And it's almost like a follow-up on like a, hey, happy holidays. It's like, during holiday time, here's the impact that you made. I mean,
Yeah.
from a
So we've,
strategic level, you could put together a calendar of like all the ways you could say thank you and show impact throughout the year, and then use all these different templates to do it. I just thought of that now, so I don't know if you like
yeah, I
that.
know. We'll write that down. So we've got some questions flying in from folks.
All right.
I think one of the big ones is, how do we deliver this? So we've got two questions about what sender does this come from? How do we ensure these don't go to junk? Do these pieces embed in an email? Do we have to switch systems? How does that part work? So I think it'd be great if you could show them that first, and then
Okay.
I'll go into some of the other questions. Like, how do we get this in the donor's hands?
Yeah, let me show you exactly what that looks like, and I'll open this up here. I'm going to open up a draft report in the builder, and I'll show you exactly what it looks like when you click the publish button and the URL that you get and how you get it in the donor's hands. So I'll talk to it while I navigate to that part. Everything is based on clicking a publish button at the end of the day. So you're collaborating with your team. You can see what it looks like in preview mode as you go. And then you click the publish button. Storyraise gives you a URL, one URL. So if you're creating a general report that's going to 50,000 people, you'll go to your existing email platform and take that one URL and send it out. And you make a nice email, you link to it, and they open it up. And in the background, Storyraise is hosting it. If you want to have that link be to your website, great. We'll give you an embed code or you can have that URL forward to your own domain. If it's personalized, we're still giving you one URL, and automatically our system will put a little tag at the end of that URL, which is every single person's um, email address. And I apologize, you're seeing a white screen, but I have maybe 500 tabs open, and then when I share on Zoom, that's what's going to happen. So when Susie and Jane and Bob and Tom, all your donors open that email, we'll know it's for them. And you can test that ahead of time by, I could probably actually just do this right here. You could test that ahead of time by, in a preview mode, by typing in the name of the constituent and spot checking every single one if you want to, and see what it's going to look like for them. That's how you can ensure. So I'm going to click the share button right here. And I've already published this one in demo mode here. You can see it says republish. Here's the URL. Okay. Some CRMs might require slightly different URL, and we'll work with you on that. But you can also generate your PDFs here. You can see samples from different constituents. And then if you want to embed it on your site, we'll give you the various codes and test with you to make sure it looks right. So I hope that answers the question. There's a lot of nuances there based on everyone's individual platforms, but
That's great.
it's pretty easy.
And then how often are you guys making new templates for clients to use? Yeah.
Well, we're about to launch 5 to 10 new ones. Some of them you got a glimpse of right now. I'd say today or Monday, probably Monday. And we base all our new ideas on feedback because someone says, oh, we want this or we need that. So if there's something you need that you don't see, it's very
Just tell
likely that
us.
someone else needs it, and we're very likely to build it. We're a pretty nimble team. And once you have your own templates, or if you build your own templates too, you could save them. And that can mean a full report and you save it as a template to use it, or just one section in a report that you want to use in other reports, or maybe just one little design block you saw on the screen. You're like, oh, I nailed it. I want to use this one as my marquee way of sharing stories for my whole team. Every time we make a report, you can just share little pieces of that. So you're kind of creating your own resource library so that you just get faster and faster.
Great. And then when you put a video into a Storyraise, into a report,
Yes.
when you link, does it open a new window? Does it keep you right there? Because I think we really want the videos to be embedded so that it stays there. Could you show people that?
Yeah, it keeps you right there. You're not leaving at all. So let's say you have a video on YouTube or Vimeo or Facebook. All you'll do is go and grab the embed code there, and then you'll place it in line within the design block. And that could be full screen, like you saw in one of the examples I showed before, or a little bit smaller, and you'll click play. So I'll show you how it looked when Goodwill implemented here. I think they had it on their first section, so I'm just going to go back to the front. I saw a nice example from the University of Michigan Alumni Association also, where they had a report. The display was really similar to this. So I'm not leaving at all. Let me mute, make sure it's muted. It's going to play. It's pulling this from the source, which is YouTube. It could take over the whole screen. It could take over a smaller part. But we have a design block called video where you're just pasting in the embed code and then it'll do the rest of the work. And that's it. We really don't want donors to navigate away from all this storytelling. We want them to stay in one spot and all be under the umbrella of your brand.
Awesome. And then we have one question. I don't know if we even have an example. I know you and I have been talking about this, but
yeah,
can you please show how this could be used for endowment reports, since these are highly custom individual reports with personalized financials? I don't know if we've mocked that up. You had talked about a scholarship one, but since the question was asked, I don't know that we've done a financial report, so just want to make sure.
I do have an example because it's so similar. Is that, you want me to show that? Is that okay here?
Yeah, that'd be great. It's fine.
Okay, so okay, actually this is the perfect screen here. Let me get my Zoom video because I don't want to look at my face the whole time while I'm showing this. So here's a section called About Your Fund. And for endowment, how this looks is is really going to pull information specific to the funds from another source. So let's say you used Blackbaud or FundMiner or your information sitting in spreadsheets, whatever it happens to be for your actual fund information, you'd have the ability to pull the name of the funds and the description of the funds, financials from the fund, and then if you're, let's say, a school and you have different beneficiaries of that fund, you could put information in there, and it's all really seamless and all automatically plugs in. Today, I know a lot of schools have to send a link out and they get individual information from all the students cobbled all together, but here it's all automated. So this information right here is being pulled from another source, the name of the fund, the description of the fund. And when I scroll down, you're going to see one after another. That's because I have them all lined up in the background, but Lynn's only going to see hers and Josh is only going to see his. And then here it has, and I'll show you what this looks like when I hit preview mode, but here it's showing the different fund information. And then underneath, I'm ready to show information about the actual beneficiaries. And we have the ability to create a link that you can send out to students, and they will upload, if you want a video, their headshot. Maybe you don't even care about the individuals, but you want to show, impact stories instead. But all this can automatically populate, and then the right donors that gave those gifts would just see the people or the schools that they're benefiting. So I have this example here in preview mode. I'm going to click stop sharing, and then I'm going to share a different window here because I think that's the best that Zoom's going to allow me, which is great. And we can see this in action. Let's see here. Okay, here it is. Okay, so I'm going to show you two tabs in a row for two mock constituents. This is exactly what I just showed you. This is just a mock-up. This is not real information, but this one's for a constituent named James Wilson. So you can see here on the bottom that it's for someone named James. And just so you can see the difference, here's another one for Linda Jones. So as I scroll down in Linda's, it says, Dear Linda. Of course, the other one's going to say, Dear James. It's this next section that's going to be most interesting. So Linda is supporting the Cindy Smith Fund. Here's a description of the fund. Remember Cindy Smith, because I'm going to show you a different name fund in the other tab. And as I scroll down, it's pulling the fund information here and what the value is. And then here are some students that it's supporting. So this information gets automatically plugged in. Jane, and then so on. I'm going to go back to this other tab I showed you for James. Of course, it says Dear James. And when I go to the next section to show information about the fund, it's not the Cindy Smith Fund, it's a different fund. So again, it's all from one URL. I send that to everybody. I prepared it in the background to pull all this data. Different fund information. Of course, this is specific to just that other fund. And it's showing a totally different student here. So that's how that could work for different types of fund reports, or similar to for different scholarships.
That's great. So folks, we have about 5 or 6 minutes left. I know you've seen a lot. Some people are asking what sources would the material for the endowment reports need to pull from. For example, Josh, as you and I have talked about, the financials, the donor, and the student all live in separate places, but you can pull from multiple sources. So that's not as an issue the way it used to be.
Correct.
So that should take care of Stephanie's question. And good to hear from you, Stephanie. So it's absolutely possible to pull from those sources. But anything else you want to tell us about personalized reporting before we kind of close out? And also, we have an opportunity if you want to hear more, or if you want to talk to Josh directly. You can put your name and email address in the comments, and we'll pass along your contact information to Josh. Again, as many of you know, we're protective of you and your data, so we don't give lists, sell lists. He can't even buy it with queso and a margarita. But if you want to hear more about the platform, you can just send me or the hosts and panelists a private message with your name and contact information, and then Josh can follow up with you directly you can do that privately or publicly, but we don't give our lists out. So, but we give you the opportunity to connect, and we'll also put Josh's information in the follow-up. So yes.
Yeah, thank you, Lynn. I mean, I just appreciate everybody's time here and all the questions. I think that with personalization, I mean, our top priority is making sure that we can help make reports that are different and move the needle, right? And that are connected to metrics at the end of the day that say, hey, we have a team that invested all this time and energy into telling great impact stories and saying thank you. And here are the results, even beyond the donor dollars. We're committed to that from the very beginning. This is not a tool where we say, hey, here's your access, go. We care and show that during the onboarding right away and the continued ongoing support that's dedicated for each one of our customers. So when it comes down to personalization, there's a lot of different, I think, paths and nuances that different organizations have and that we've seen. There's use cases we probably haven't even thought of yet. And I think we talked about one or two of them here. So all very interesting. And we're also here to learn.
And my friend Julie at Conestoga College is bragging on how the support has been. She's been a long time DRG follower. So great to hear that you're having a good experience, Julie, that makes us really happy. So again, trying to bring you tech that actually understands your situations and how it works. And so just thrilled to partner with Josh and others. And you're going to see other folks come on board, but we're also going to bring Josh and Jeff back in early 2025 to talk more about the platform. And just the more folks we get on the platform, the more use cases we have to share samples. And so if you ever need samples or just need, and that's the other thing, if you just want to talk to Josh about what's happening in the world of reporting and online platforms, he's happy to take that. You don't have to be like, and we're going to buy. Like, it can just be having a chat about the world that we all live in and that we love. So, that's always an opportunity. I want to say thank you to Josh. Thank you to Ashley. Thank you to Madeline on my team who's in the chat. All of you for supporting, and then all of you for coming. This is a great opportunity for us to share as a community and learn about common things. And if you weren't able to get your question answered today, go ahead and email Josh at Storyraise, and he will answer some of those specific questions that are directly to you. We'll take care of that. But thank you, everyone. We wish you a great, for some of us, it's a long weekend after a long week for some of us. And I hope you do some self-care, hug your doggo or your kiddo or your family, and just know that the work you do matters out in this space. And we're grateful to each and every one of you. So enjoy yourselves, but also have a meaningful weekend. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks, Lynn.